and swiftness to their arrangement. Love had come as the rod of the master prophet to swallow up every minor propensity. Love had doubled all her excellences, and placed a diadem on her genius. Was she to cease love, take the colours and odour from the rose, change the sweet nutriment of mother's milk to gall and poison, as easily might you wean Perdita from love? She grieved for the loss of Raymond with an anguish that exiled all smile from her lips, and trenched sad lines on her brow of beauty. But each day seemed to change the nature of her suffering, and every succeeding hour forced her to alter, if so I may style it, the fashion of her soul's mourning garb. For a time music was able to satisfy the cravings of her mental hunger, and her melancholy thoughts renewed themselves in each change of key, and varied with every alteration in the strain. My schooling first impelled her towards books, and if music had been the food of sorrow, the productions of the wise became its medicine. The acquisition of unknown languages was too tedious an occupation for one who referred every expression to the universe within, and read not, as many do, for the mere sake of filling up time, but who was still questioning herself and her author, moulding every idea in 1,000 ways, ardently desirous for the discovery of truth in every sentence. She sought to improve her understanding. Mechanically her heart and dispositions became soft and gentle under this benign discipline. After a while she discovered that amidst all her newly acquired knowledge, her own character, which formerly she fancied that she thoroughly understood, became the first in rank among the terrae incognitae, the pathless wilds of the country that had no chart. Erringly and strangely she began the task of self-examination with self-condemnation, and then again she became aware of her own excellences, and began to balance with juster scales the shades of good and evil. I, who longed beyond words to restore her to the happiness it was still in her power to enjoy, watched with anxiety the result of these internal proceedings. But man is a strange animal. We cannot calculate on his forces like that of an engine, and though an impulse draw with a 40 horsepower of what appears willing to yield to 1, yet in contempt of calculation the movement is not effected. Neither grief, philosophy, nor love could make Perdita think with mildness of the dereliction of Raymond. She now took pleasure in my society. Towards Idris she felt and displayed a full and affectionate sense of her worth. She restored to her child in abundant measure her tenderness and care, but I could discover amidst all her repinings deep resentment towards Raymond, and an unfading sense of injury that plucked from me my hope, when I appeared nearest to its fulfilment. Among other painful restrictions, she has occasioned it to become a law among us never to mention Raymond's name before her. She refused to read any communications from Greece, desiring me only to mention when they arrived, and whether the wanderers were well. It was curious that even little Clara observed this law towards her mother. This lovely child was nearly 8 years of age. Formerly she had been a light-hearted infant, fanciful but gay and childish. After the departure of her father, thought became impressed on her young brow. Children unadepts in language seldom find words to express their thoughts, nor could we tell in what manner the late events had impressed themselves on her mind. But certainly she had made deep observations while she noted in silence the changes that passed around her. She never mentioned her father to Perdita. She appeared half afraid when she spoke of him to me, and though I tried to draw her out on the subject, and to dispel the gloom that hung about her ideas concerning him, I could not succeed. Yet each foreign post day she watched for the arrival of letters, knew the postmark, and watched me as I read. I found her often poring over the article of Greek intelligence in the newspaper. There is no more painful sight than that of untimely care in children, and it was particularly observable in one whose disposition had heretofore been mirthful. Yet there was so much sweetness and docility about Clara, that your admiration was excited, and if the moods of mind are calculated to paint the cheek with beauty and endow the emotions with grace, surely her contemplations must have been celestial, since every lineament was moulded into loveliness, and her motions were more harmonious than the elegant boundings of the fawns of her native forest. I sometimes expostulated with Perdita on the subject of her reserve, but she rejected my counsels, while her daughter's sensibility excited in her a tenderness still more passionate. After a lapse of more than a year, Adrian returned from Greece. When our exiles had first arrived, a truce was in existence between the Turks and Greeks, a truce that was as sleep to the mortal frame, signal of renewed activity on waking. With the numerous soldiers of Asia, with all of warlike stores, ships, and military engines that wealth and power could command, the Turks at once resolved to crush an enemy, which, creeping on by degrees, had from their stronghold in the Morea acquired Thrace and Macedonia, and had led their armies even to the gates of Constantinople, while their extensive commercial relations gave every European nation an interest in their success. Greece prepared for a vigorous resistance. It rose to a man, and the women, sacrificing their costly ornaments, accoutred their sons for the war, and bade them conquer or die with the spirit of the Spartan mother. The talents and courage of Raymond were highly esteemed among the Greeks. Born at Athens, that city claimed him for her own, and by giving him the commander of her peculiar division in the army, the commander in chief only possessed superior power. He was numbered among her citizens. His name was added to the list of Grecian heroes. His judgment, activity, and consummate bravery justified their choice. The Earl of Windsor became a volunteer under his friend. "It is well," said Adrian, "to prate of war in these pleasant shades, and with much ill-spent oil make a show of joy, because many thousands of our fellow creatures leave with pain this sweet air and natal earth. I shall not be suspected of being averse to the Greek cause. I know and feel its necessity. It is beyond every other a good cause. I have defended it with my sword, and was willing that my spirit should be breathed out in its defence. Freedom is of more worth than life, and the Greeks do well to defend their privilege unto death. But let us not deceive ourselves. The Turks are men. Each fibre, each limb, is as feeling as our own, and every spasm, be it mental or bodily, is as truly felt in a Turk's heart or brain as in a Greek's. The last action at which I was present was the taking of Blanquea. The Turks resisted to the last. The garrison perished on the ramparts, and we entered by assault. Every breathing creature within the walls was massacred. Think you, amidst the shrieks of violated innocence and helpless infancy, I did not feel in every nerve the cry of a fellow being? There were men and women, the sufferers before there are Mahometans, and when they rise turbanless from the grave, in what, except their good or evil actions, will they be any better or worse than we? Two soldiers contended for a girl, whose rich dress and extreme beauty excited the brutal appetites of these wretches, who, perhaps good men among their families, were changed by the fury of the moment into incarnated evils. An old man with a silver beard, decrepit and bald, he might be her grandfather, interposed to save her. The battle axe of one of them clove his skull. I rushed to her defence, but rage made them blind and deaf. They did not distinguish my Christian garb, or heed my words. Words were blunt weapons then, for while war cried havoc and murder gave fit echo, how could I turn back the tide of evils, relieving wrong with mild accost of soothing eloquence? One of the fellows, enraged at my interference, struck me with his bayonet in the side, and I fell senseless. This wound will probably shorten my life, having shattered a frame weak of itself, but I am content to die. I have learnt in Greece that one man more or less is of small import, while human bodies remain to fill up the thin ranks of the soldiery, and that the identity of an individual may be overlooked, so that the muster roll contain its full numbers. All this has a different effect upon Raymond. he is able to contemplate the ideal of war, while I am sensible